Everybody has a dream, guys. Some people dream of a house, some dream of a woman to love. I have a dream too, and it has a name. Today we are gonna test it. Hey yo, rider bros. This is Explosive Mike. Today we are testing the Ducati Streetfighter V4. Oh my god, guys, we've waited for so long for this. You cannot imagine how excited I am. Finally, I can lay my hands on the Ducati Streetfighter. Man, I've waited so long. I should have tested this motorcycle in Spain. Then the coronavirus happened and it got cancelled. I should have been the first one to test it in Moscow, but I couldn't again. Now I'm standing here. It's September already and it's quite cool outside. The sun is still shining though, and we will get to ride this Pirelli, this monster. Today I will show and tell you everything about it. We will test this motorcycle's most explosive modes. Just what Explosive Mike loves. Make way to the monster! Before I get lost in the excitement, let me first talk to you about its technical specs. We can't skip that, though the technical aspect is second to the feeling we get from riding this motorcycle, and to its power. It can really deliver a lot. Guys, as you might guess, this motorcycle stands 200% by its name, the Street Fighter. It is a real Street Fighter. I don't know, I turned off all the electronics. The motorcycle has gone crazy. Even I get scared by it, to be honest, when riding in traffic like this. Oh my god, what have the Italians done to this motorcycle? Oh lord. It's a very high-tech machine. It was created based on the Panigale V4. It is a typical sport motorcycle from Ducati that was introduced not too long ago. The first version was released a couple of years ago. The motorcycle has the character of a fighter. I don't know how else to explain it. The engine has an unbelievable power reserve. When it rides, you know it can ride even faster. You're riding at 250 kilometers an hour, you speed up and it rides even faster. You're already getting blown off the seat, but the engine doesn't care at all. It keeps going. For me, the idea of a Street Fighter is the best that one can come up with. Now let's talk about the idea of a Street Fighter. So here's the story. There are a lot of bloggers claiming the serial motorcycles cannot be called Street Fighters. True, Street Fighters are the ones that were rebuilt in a garage by enthusiasts. Many people don't get the difference between customizing and the idea of a Street Fighter or a street punk. A long time ago there was an idea. I'm not an expert, but I've heard this opinion from a lot of people, including the ones who do do customizing professionally. A long time ago, when plastic sport motorcycles first appeared, people would get in crashes and the plastic would get damaged. There weren't that many spare parts, so what people did was create so-called street fighters. They would get rid of the plastic parts and install some handlebars that they had. Then it transformed into some kind of street style. People would add customized elements, change some parts. For example, a swing arm could get replaced by the one from another motorcycle, or some other parts, or the front part could get changed. This developed into a customizing culture. The main idea behind Street Fighter is a fierce street scrapper. To put it simply, you take a sport motorcycle, throw away the plastic parts, and replace all the parts so that the riding position resembles a street motorcycle. However, it retains the aggressive spirit of a sport motorcycle. In today's world, companies are also creating street fighters. Yes, there are serial street fighters. You can argue with me, screaming, "This is not a real street fighter." Yes, it's not a customized street fighter, but it is still a street fighter. It's based on the Ducati Panigale V4. Please, tell me, how is this different? We take the Panigale V4, put it in our garage, rebuild it, reassemble it, get rid of plastic, and change the gears. The same can be done by the manufacturer. This is how the first Street Fighter Ducati V4 was created. The guys there took a Panigale and transformed it into a Street Fighter gun. Tell me, how is this different? Only by the fact that the serial ones are made in the factory and not in the garage. In the 80s, it was made in a garage because that was the only option. That trend had just appeared. In today's world, we have serial scrambler motorcycles that appeared under the customizing trend's influence. There are cafe racers that have their own story and philosophy. They are also serial motorcycles, so if you think that they are not the true versions, it's up to you. I will take these serial street fighters that ride much easier than the customized ones. They are much more high-tech and feel better to ride. This is my second day riding it, and the first day the weather is good enough. I'm overjoyed! Can you imagine?
Turn that shit around, throw it backwards.
Okay, I think the Street Fighter idea is clear now. You can think what you like, but I consider it a serial Street Fighter, a true, pure-blood one, because it's based on a sport motorcycle. How is it different? Let's have a look. Speaking simply, even Ducati tells us that the Ducati Streetfighter V4 is the Ducati Panigale V4, but with a street handlebar and without plastic and so on. It has the same engine, the Desmo Sedici Stradale, that I like because of its cool name. Yeah, it's not the testa stretta, but when you're riding this motorcycle, your testosterone is rising sky high. The engine capacity is 1103 cc. It has 208 horsepower. 208 horsepower on a street motorcycle. It also has 123 Newton meter. Not too much. There's KTM Super Duke that has 140, 141 Newton meter. 123 Newton meter is still a lot. A new Fireblade that pulls off 299 on 4th gear has as much as 113 Newton meter. We know that a street motorcycle should have powerful lows. It should dominate from the start. It should stand up on the rear wheel on the first 3 gears. It should skid with turned-off traction control and so on. That's why they've made the gears shorter here. They're different compared to Panigale. This motorcycle has a very angry engine. It sounds fierce too. Whoop! I get goosebumps. The stock exhaust sounds nice. It's good that it is directed down towards the ground. I have a feeling that it sounds cool because the sound waves are reflected from the asphalt, creating an echo effect. Hey, I'm here. Interesting features. There is a V4 engine, but unlike the Aprilia V4, this one works like a V2. Ducati mentioned that. They admitted that it was made intentionally. The sound of it resembles the V2. What else? Older Panigale versions would heat up pretty badly. Your butt would feel very hot. There are videos on my channel where I've mentioned that. Here, they came up with a new feature. When you're idling on the crossroad for a long time or just standing somewhere, it shuts down 2 rear cylinders. Only the front 2 are left working. The sound changes too. Then you switch gears. The other 2 are waking up. This makes the motorcycle heat up less. You can also guess that it consumes less fuel. Okay, since I've started the review already, let me talk about fuel consumption then. The motorcycle consumes an enormous amount of fuel. It shows on the dashboard that the average consumption is around 6 to 7 liters. I reset it. Let's check one more time. It shows 5 to 6 liters now. I'm riding quite slowly. When you're boosting, like on Kawasaki H2, it starts gulping liters of fuel. Here we should say that if you want to work it hard, get ready to tank it up often. The question is, the tank is not too big. It is a city motorcycle. It's not made for long rides. However, if you ride slowly, you could try going further. The tank is going to be enough for 150 to 200 kilometers, even if you're speeding up. In the city, it's perfectly fine. Ducati has 2 versions, Streetfighter V4 and V4S. The S version has the Yolen's damper and modern electronic suspension. The base version front is equipped with the Showa that has manual adjustments. The rear is equipped with a Zax shock absorber. The suspension behaves nicely. The motorcycle is very obedient. Even at the lowest speeds, you don't have to put the foot down. You keep balance even when it's nearly stopped. The geometry was very well done here. Even a newbie can ride this motorcycle. It's absolutely possible. I will go into the details a little later when we will talk about electronics. A newbie will handle it well. Honestly, I tested this motorcycle twice. The first run was for 3 days, and now I'm taking it out for 3 days more. I'm racing it in the fiercest modes. Honestly, I don't see any super noticeable differences in the city. The only thing is just this adjustable suspension. It's very convenient to set up from the dashboard. This version is very cool too. The question is this one. People who buy Ducati are usually pretty wealthy and have some ambitions. They tend to buy the S version because they want it fully loaded. The best. To me, this version is good too. I like it. Yeah, maybe if I rode the S version, I might say, oh my god, it steers so well. I say the same thing about this one though. The geometry is super cool. The riding position is fierce. This is the Streetfighter riding position. It's insanely comfortable in the city. You are not tired unless you have a passenger behind you. When I took my girlfriend for a ride, we found a problem. The rider's riding position is more street-like, very straight and aggressive. A passenger has to sit like on a sport motorcycle. This mismatch when you sit like this and your passenger is sitting like that was really getting in the way. Kate was leaning on me because it was inconvenient for her to reach to the tank. I had to lie on the tank too. Anyway, it's very inconvenient to carry a passenger on this motorcycle. Compared to an older version of the Streetfighter, this one has a slightly different riding position. You don't sit as high. Yeah, it's still high enough, but not as high as on an older fighter. The handlebar has become wider. The degree of the handlebar's diversion has become wider too. I might be wrong, it's been a long time since I rode the older one. These elements that influence your riding position and ergonomics allow you to feel more comfortable in the city and in traffic, just like I'm riding now. The only thing is, I'm not maneuvering in between cars now. Maneuvering between cars is much more convenient than on an older fighter. It's also much more convenient than on a Panigale. That's a fact. This forward riding position firstly brings me joy. I always say it when I'm riding this type of motorcycle. Secondly, when the speed is higher, you don't have a feeling of being thrown back. Your body leans forward when you're speeding up and you feel more comfortable. It's fierce! Yahoo! So cool!
first single, like, oh, he rap. You thought it was a drought, that's cap. I get the front and I get the back. Lil Uzi the facts, like that's a rat. Bought some new boots.
All this allows, don't rush to throw the A and B category driver's license exam tasks in my face, a newbie can ride this motorcycle. The point is, it has very modern electronics. They're all adjustable, or well, almost all. Today I figured you can't turn the ABS off. You can set it on level 1, but it allows you to do everything. If we dive into electronics descriptions, we have 3 modes here: race, track, and sport. Many people are wondering, like on the Aprilia, what's the difference? Race, track, sport. Isn't it the same? Are they 3 track modes or what? These 3 modes are fully adjustable. It's just for your convenience. They could call them 1, 2, 3. You can set up each mode the way you want. For example, my race mode is the fiercest. I turned off traction and my ABS is set only for the front wheel so that I can be naughty on the streets or ride on the track. My second mode has higher traction. This is a bit softer for having another rider, for example. In the third mode, I crank up the traction, set the engine on low. Here, we can set it up. You can set up the engine power on high, medium, or low. On low, the motorcycle becomes just like a 400cc. When it rains, you can also turn on the mode you've already set up, with the highest traction, the lowest engine power, maximum ABS, and so on. You can ride safely. They are modern electronics. They aren't going to be like this. It won't suddenly jolt. You won't even feel it. The way the electronics here changed the character of the motorcycle just shocked me. Yesterday I rode with wheelie control on and with the second traction. It was almost at a minimum. On Ducati there are 8 levels of traction. The second one lets you do a lot, like lifting the front wheel during acceleration. It has a lot of power, 208 horsepower. The motorcycle should wheelie when you push the throttle to the fullest or almost to the fullest. I had the first level of wheelie control and I couldn't understand what was going on. The motorcycle was lifting the wheel but not too high. I really started believing that it was because of motorcycle geometry. I thought the weight balance was like that and it couldn't wheelie, that it wasn't a wheelie machine. But a motorcycle that speeds up very fast, like the BMW K1300R, then I changed one little setting. I turned off the wheelie control and set the first traction. I was shocked. I was shocked because this motorcycle stood up on the first gear. I switched the shifter and on the second it rose even higher. I keep it high. My speed was already at 130. It's so amazing. And it happened at every traffic light. You don't have to do anything. Just push the throttle slightly and pull it a little bit. The motorcycle will fly up doing a wheelie. What's interesting here is that it has this sport motorcycle geometry. It's very stable when doing a wheelie and it's easy to put it down. I was so shocked because the motorcycle character really changed a lot. It has become more lively and crazy. It's cool. I don't think any other company can compare. I've never ridden a motorcycle whose electronics change the character this much without the rider even noticing it. The number of electronic features gives you confidence. Yeah, it won't make you immortal, and you have to understand that. But trust me, when you turn the electronics on here, you can't get away with being stupid. I don't know what one has to do to make the motorcycle low side, to make the front wheel skid when braking, or anything else that could lead to something unpleasant. Really, guys, I've got to tell you that the Fighter has well set up fuel maps. When you turn the gas handle, it doesn't boost and rides very smoothly. It doesn't give you any jolt unless it's close to 0. When the speed is almost at 0, it might jolt a little. What do you want? This naked can ride at 300. If you ride at 10 kilometers an hour and on the first gear, it will jolt slightly. The quick shifter works up and down very precisely. It allows you, just like me now, to ride in the traffic or with a passenger at low speeds. You feel pretty comfortable. The motorcycle doesn't jolt or kick you. It doesn't make any abrupt movements. It can do it. When you accelerate a little more and reach 5,000, 6,000 RMP, the rock and roll starts, and you better hold tight. Here we also have a system called slide control. Can you feel how advanced this motorcycle is? When you ride on a track and push the throttle while turning, the electronics can decide for you how to distribute the power and enable all the systems to make the motorcycle slide. Slide, Carl. It's doing it for you, roughly speaking. It's rough, guys, really. I also like these cool graphics that show you what electronics do. It has arrows. It shows sliding. When you are switching the ABS, it shows front only, or front and rear, or front and rear sliding. When the ABS is on, it allows you to slide a little while holding the brakes. It's very cool, man, really out of this world. Even though the dashboard is small, it's like on the Panigale, it's not wide, it's very compact, but you can see and read everything clearly. I like how it looks. My impression of Tuono electronics was not as bright as it is with this motorcycle. If we compare how I feel the motorcycle with the same Tuono, as you asked me, I would say that Tuono seems more dangerous when we turn off the electronics. The Fighter is more stable in this case. The Fighter is more stable. Yeah, it's very powerful. It's very powerful. It's very wild. If we turn off the electronics, some crazy things could happen. Only an experienced rider can manage it. I'm serious here. If you're inexperienced and you are sitting on this motorcycle to test it, or if you already bought it, please don't shut all the electronics off at once. Don't do it. I have a feeling that it is still more obedient than the Tuono though. The Tuono is a wild and crazy motorcycle. This one is wild too, but it's more obedient. The Tuono can pop a wheelie too, but it's shakier. Like that. Whoa, 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 whoa. It's crazy, just like I described her in the review. The Streetfighter is not like that. It's a silent guy wearing a hood that could come over to you and be like, Sha. One moment you were standing and the next you sent flying. The Tuono is hysterical Italian lady that screams, go, go, hit the road, do it. The Fighter is your best bud that can shred anybody to pieces for you on the road. That's what makes him a real street fighter. It's what makes him a street hooligan with that Street Fighter feel. Let's talk a little about the brakes. The brakes are out of this world here. When I tested V4 on the track, I was very impressed by the brakes. Plus, the Panigale V4 and Street Fighter V4 engines have the same Brembo Stylema calipers and the same brake discs. They also have the same engine braking system. The complex of this engine braking system, and by the way, you can turn it off if it makes you nervous during casual riding. For instance, I turned it off when I was riding with Kate yesterday. No, I set it to the lowest. So the complex of the engine braking system and these Brembo brakes is surreal. You wouldn't believe that the motorcycle can brake like this at such speeds. I can only speak from my own experience. Maybe we can measure it out. I guess it would not show much difference. If we compare it to previous generations' brakes, the feeling is surreal though.
I wake up, flex, thumb down now, check, no drip this, wet. Tell him run it on, no sleep, no rest, might crash, might wreck, but first I stretch, tell him run it on. I wake up, flex, thumb down now, check, no drip this, wet. Tell him run it on, no sleep, no rest, might crash, might wreck, but first I stretch, tell him run it on. 9 out of 10, run through my hands, I'm by my lonely. Turned to a savage, now my baby wants to hold me. I love my fans, don't need no friends, I got my homies. thought I could trust you, I find out you tried to zone me.
Let's talk about the design, guys. I can talk forever about Italian design, just no comments. It's always very beautiful and unusual, very unique, very elaborate, and detailed. Yes, it's not a true street fighter that real guys have built. It doesn't have a tail like this. Look, here's a swing arm. You can leave it. The Panigale V4 is equipped with a swing arm. The design is very cool. It has all these little details and tank lattices that look awesome. It has this sexy booty with an amazing rear stop signal, like the one on the Panigale. The swing arm I mentioned goes together with a beautiful disc and a big rear wheel. Of course, we have the winglets that have become the Street Fighter signature this year. I think this is the first thing people notice about it. What? A naked with winglets? Wow, it's true, though now the Brutale has these winglets too. Of course, we have to mention the front. The design gets compared to the Kawasaki Z1000. Even when I posted this on Instagram, people started messaging me, "Hey, they copied it from Kawasaki Z1000. It's so obvious." Guys, believe me, do you think that the Italians have nothing to do but run around copying Japanese designs? Z1000 has a very cool design, I agree. But if you look closer, you will notice the difference right away between Japanese and Italian design. The front is very similar to Z1000, but Ducati mentioned during the presentation that they were inspired by the Joker character. There's also a video from the presentation where they show this picture. We see this smiling Joker, and half of his face is the front of the new Street Fighter V4. The front is really stunning and amazing. Even my cameraman was ecstatic when I turned the engine on while he filmed the front of the motorcycle. I cannot say that the lights are as bright as the Multistrada or BMW GS, but the optics here are good. It lights up the road just fine. It's very narrow and looks like a thin stripe though. You are noticeable in traffic, firstly because of the LED optics. People notice it. They can also hear you. The engine has a big capacity. You can hear it together with the exhaust that's hammering the ground. I think if they installed the Akropovich, the effect would have been just wild. The motorcycle looks so good that the only thing I would do is get rid of the tail. I would install a short frame, like the one that one of my St. Petersburg subscribers ordered and installed on theirs. If you have a lot of money, you can buy some carbon onlays from Ducati Performance. I'm not sure if there are carbon winglets though, maybe they sell them too. In other regards, it's complete. It has the looks, the tech, the engine character, and the rebellious philosophy of a street hooligan. It's a true street scrapper. When I tested Panigale V2, the Italians came to me and said, "Michaelo." Okay, I'm joking, that's not what they called me. They said, Mike, we are releasing the Street Fighter V4. This motorcycle is 100% you. It has everything you like. They were so right. Now when I ride it in the city, man, I feel so awesome. I told Vanya Gorev, if I had saved money to buy an apartment now, if I had saved it for 5 years straight and had $26,000 just for that alone, I would take it all and buy this motorcycle. Really, guys, it's the motorcycle of my dreams. Everything about it is so cool. It's 100% high tech. It changes your perspective on some of the older motorcycles. The older versions were upgraded. There were turbines installed on them. They could pull off 200 plus horsepower, but it wasn't quite right. When you pushed the throttle, they would fire start, but the geometry wouldn't be balanced. They weren't any normal brakes. You could speed up, push the throttle, and reach 300 just in 200 meters, but there was no way to brake. Modern motorcycles are a complete 180-degree change. Everything they have is cool. The brakes are on par with the power. The riding position has been time-tested. And you can do everything you want just by sitting comfortably. Don't tell me that a true Street Fighter is this pulled-up thingy, whatever that is. There were real guys who worked these motorcycles in the city. Nowadays, the majority of people riding them are the guys who bought them from somewhere and say, "Now I have a true Street Fighter. I will ride it in the city like I want with my bros. That's it." No, guys, it's not a true Street Fighter. It could be a true customized one. The true Street Fighter is when you dominate the streets, when you crash the roads, when you speed from the traffic light and fly up on your rear wheel. A sport motorcycle rider who paid $26,000 for a sport motorcycle will believe he's the king of the city. No, he's dead wrong. He's just not. This little babe will humiliate him. It's true. 208 horsepower and 123 Newton meter is no joke. No joke. Now for the good part. Despite all the high power and the electronics it has that help newbies control all this power, it's clear that to unleash its potential, you have to shut down the electronics. You need the experience to manage it. The engine is set up very nicely. Very nicely. I said this already, but it has a V2 engine's character. You have to rev it. It revs up to 14,500 RMP or even higher. On the lows, the engine is very smooth. It allows you to ride calmly, however strange that might sound. It's not like other sport motorcycles. It's not like when you're riding on low RPM and you lack power. Here, it's enough. It's enough for acceleration. It's even enough to stand on a rear wheel. The character on the lows is calm. When you rev up the engine, then comes the insanity. The engine seems like it could go up forever. You switch gears. The airflow is blowing you off. Remember, it's naked. It will throw you off. Honestly, as I feel it, up to 250 kilometers an hour, it's bearable. At 280, it starts blowing you off. Yeah, you might be surprised here. You might not have known it before. This is a naked that goes faster than 300 kilometers an hour. I didn't manage to squeeze all 300 out of it because the test track I went to was occupied by wagons and vans drivers. They were also shooting videos. I had to pull back. The airflow was really dense. I sped up to 288. When I sped up to 288, it wasn't on the edge. The engine could keep going. My neck was already unable to withstand the airflow. But the engine was pushing me forward together with the motorcycle. The engine is very powerful. It's endless and bottomless. It couldn't care less about the wind and the resistance. It's just firing ahead with enormous power. It gains speed very fast. This is understandable because it's a Street Fighter that was built based on one of the fastest sport motorcycles in the world. There was a road section between two traffic lights. It was about 300 to 400 meters long. I managed to speed up from 0 to 260 and brake right in front of the cars standing at the crossroad. It was crazy. Let's compare it to the Tuono. The Tuono speeds up to 250. Up to 200 kilometers an hour, it dominates leader sport motorcycles, but once it reaches its limit of 274 kilometers an hour, it loosens out. Just because there's this limit, it can't exceed it. This motorcycle is different. On the lows, it's more powerful than a sports motorcycle. It dominates there, but doesn't stop at 250. It keeps charging forward. Just hold your neck in place. To be honest with you, the guys who tested it in Moscow reached 300. The Germans in some videos have also made it. Like Panigale, it shows dash lines that mean the acceleration continues, but you don't know to what extent. Up there, you can try doing it if you're curious. It can pull it off. From 270, it's really hard on your neck. You feel like your vertebrae start crashing and pressing together. This motorcycle is pure ecstasy, just like the Tuono. When I rode it, I spent the whole week walking like this and saying, "Ah, so amazing. I want more." Here, it's the same. I tested it once and got used to it. Now it's my second time and I've taken it to shoot the remaining review. I ride it and enjoy this explosion of awesomeness. I ride it and keep smiling under the helmet. Really, I just ride and smile. When you accelerate, you want to laugh hysterically. Darn! What the hell is it doing? What the hell are you doing, babe? I don't know what else to say to you guys. Let me tell you about the smallest details it has. The saddle is pretty soft. It's not slippery, especially the driver's seat. It's very luxurious and comfy. That's obvious, because the base version costs over $23,000. Here it has this nice V4 sign. It's made of non-slippery material. I rode it wearing a leather racing suit and motorcycle jeans. It's great and everything. I can hold tight, my hands are not strained because I don't have to use any force. There's one interesting button here. It heats up the handlebar handles. Base version doesn't have this feature though. The button is there, but to activate it you have to pay extra. It's kind of an additional option. The controls are very intuitive, I'd say. Maybe it's like that to me who uses Ducati. I'm someone who used it for a long time. This is very comfortable, very clear, and natural to me. It has all the buttons, strobe lights, right and left switches on the dashboard. The menu is very easy to understand. You just dive in and adjust all the modes. The mode choice is easy too. It's very convenient. The right controller also has a launch control button. I tested it. As you can see on the video, here I'm testing it. I choose the first level. Honestly, I tried it once and it wasn't impressive at all. It sneezed awkwardly and started accelerating unwillingly. As an experienced person, I find it easier to rev it myself and work it right with the clutch. I accelerate and boost it properly. What drawbacks could this motorcycle have? Hey, guys, who doesn't like Ducati? Who's watching me now? Are you out there? Leave me a comment about what drawbacks it has. The real ones. I don't mean something like, it doesn't have a windshield. It's supposed to be like that. It shouldn't have any. What for? It should blow you off. The airflow should flatten your hair after it gets messed up from the acceleration. What are its drawbacks, guys? Is it the price? It's worth it. I think it's worth this much money. This kind of toy is never cheap. Because of all the tech and the engine installed, and how awesome you feel. I think it's worth it. I don't know what else to say. And I don't really want to say anything. I just want to ride, 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 ride. That's how the Streetfighter is. I think it's the coolest thing that you crave to ride this motorcycle. There was an evening when I went riding with guys. I was tired after a long day. We finished the Fireblade shooting. I wasn't sleeping well. I was in such a state, man. I couldn't do anything. So I hopped on the motorcycle. Kate was calling me asking where I was at 2:30 a.m. You just can't stop. Motorcycles are a type of drug, especially these ones. And by these, I mean very powerful ones. You get hooked on it. Honestly, I don't want to give it back. The motorcycle is very cool. It impressed me tremendously. Kudos to the guys from the Ducati factory. Guys, you've created such an awesome motorcycle. I will save money and think about it. Maybe I will buy the Tuono in between. This cool hooligan, Ducati, is on top, guys. It's my love. It's my dream. There's nothing else to say. Let's wrap the review up here. Thank you for watching. This was Explosive Mike. Have a fierce ride. Get the true motorcycles that you like. Branded Heyo. Ciao, ragazzi. Ciao.
Ciao. I wake up, flex, I'm down now. Check. No drip, this. Tell 'em run it up. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck. But first I stretch. Tell 'em run it up. I wake up, flex, I'm down now. Check. No drip, this. Tell 'em run it up. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck. But first I stretch. Tell 'em run it up. 9 out of 10 roll through my hands, I'm by my lonely. Turn to a savage, now my baby wants to hold me. I love my fans, don't need no friends, I got my homies. Thought I could trust you, I find out you tried to zone me.